Good day, students. How are you? How are you doing? I hope you're doing great. I hope you're being wonderful kids. And above all, I hope you're staying safe. Like I will always say, I hope you're praying. This thing that the whole world is into at the moment, it's only God that can deliver us. So you should be praying for yourself. Pray for your family. Pray for the world and pray for Nigeria. But one thing I know is that all of us will come out of this alive in Jesus' name. And of course, I can't wait to have you back in school. But till then, I will always give you my virtual hug. Virtual hug. So take my virtual hug. I love you all. Alright, today we'll be looking at the topic democracy. I want us to talk about democracy. I know this is not the first time you're hearing the word democracy. In your junior secondary school, you learned about democracy. Yes, I know, because I know I taught you that. So I know you have heard the word democracy before. But today we are going to look at it closely. We are going to see other sides to it. Alright. Before we delve into the definition of democracy, I want us to look at some of the objectives of our lesson today. By the end of the lesson, you should be able to explain the meaning of what? Democracy. You should also be able to identify the importance and problems of democracy. And you should also be able to explain the processes of democracy. Okay, now what is democracy? Let's look at the meaning of democracy. I know immediately you heard meaning of democracy or what is democracy. What usually comes into your mind is the definition by Abraham Lincoln. Government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Okay, why that is okay, but that's for the laymen. For you and I that are scholars, that are intellectuals, that's the way we define democracy. So we can, or we will be very correct to define democracy as a system of government in which the supreme power is vested on the people and they exercise it directly or indirectly through their elected representatives. I go again. Democracy can be defined as a system of government in which the supreme power is vested on the people and they exercise it directly or indirectly through their elected representatives. Okay, so when we define democracy, the focus is usually on the people. The focus is usually on the people. The supreme power is vested on the people. You know, we have so many types or systems of government. We have, I think, statocracy, which is military rule. And you know, when the military is in power, they don't care about human rights. They don't care about the people. They don't care about how you feel. That's why we say the military, they rule by decree. Obey the last command. Okay? And the people don't put them into power. If there should be a military takeover of government now, what you will hear is, you will just hear on the radio that General so-so-so person is now the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. You don't have any, you don't need to vote them into power. You don't need to choose your governor, or they will just put military governors in the different states and all of that. And a lot of systems and structures of government that we have in place now will be abandoned. That's democracy. That's military rule for you. We have oligarchy, we have theocracy, and so many of them. But when you talk about democracy, We're talking about a government that is based on the consent of the people. A government that is based on the consent of what? The people. That's why Abraham Lincoln defined the simplified and is a kind of popular that democracy is a government of the people, by the people, and for what? The people. So, it's because of that fact that democracy is a kind of government that is based on the consent of the people. What it means is that the people are part and parcel of the decision-making process of how they are governed. They take part in the decisions that affect them. They can do that directly, like coming out together to take decisions on how they will, on their welfare, on how they will fare, like we had in ancient city Greek states. Or they will involve in election. They will be the ones through election. They will be the ones to choose their leaders through a process known as what? Election. So either ways, you see, it is centered on the people. It is based on the consent of what? The people. So that's why we say democracy is a system of government in which the supreme power is vested on the people and they exercise it directly. That is when they take part in the decision-making process that affects them, or indirectly through their elected representatives. That is when they choose people to go and take decisions on their what? Behalf. All right. Democracy is widely understood to mean a government based on the consent of the people. Yes, I've said that. The word democracy originated from two Greek words, meaning demos and kratos. Demos and kratos. Demos and kratos. So, and the meaning, remember I said is Greek words, demos, because democracy, the idea of democracy actually originated in Greek. Demos and kratos. And the meaning is what? Power and government. Power and government. Okay. Democracy began in ancient Greece, where every citizen was expected to participate in the affairs and leadership of the city-state. Like I said earlier, democracy originated from ancient Greece city-states, where the qualified or legible adult citizens came out, adult male citizens came out to take part in the decision-making process that affects them. It was possible because the Greek city-states were small, so everybody could come out, and discuss, just like we have our village meetings. Igbo culture is a very good example of democracy, where people come out together to take meeting. They do, Igbo system of government known as, I think, gerontocracy, rule of the elders. They come together to take decisions on what will be done in the village, what will be done in the communities, and so on and so forth. That's a very good example of democracy too. So that was how they came out in ancient Greek city-states to take part in decision making. What should be done? What are we going to do? What do we do? And so on and so forth. And remember, I told you that reasons why that was possible was because the Greek city-states were pockets of small domains which accommodated all the people. Small cities, it accommodated all the people, making democracy easy and a direct one. But as society grew larger, it became impossible to have every mature adult directly involved in the business of what? Government. As society grew larger, it became impossible to have every mature adult directly involved in the process of what? Government. And thus, the indirect democracy, which is the representative democracy, emerged. Okay, I've explained direct democracy. That is that type of democracy where all the adult citizens or legible citizens comes together to take part in the decision-making process that affects them. Remember, I said it was possible because it was possible in ancient Greek city-states because they were just small cities. But now, with the modern societies we have, for example, Nigeria, everybody that is legible to, take part in the decision-making process cannot come out now to discuss. Where are we going to gather? Is it at the stadium, Lagos Stadium, or where? Everybody. Okay, let's just take up their state. Where will everybody come out now to say we are going to talk about how we run Abia State and how this one will be done? It's not possible. So that's why representative democracy came into existence. And what is representative democracy all about? Is simply the process of what? Choosing people to go and make decisions on our behalf, choosing our leaders, choosing those people that will rule us in government through a process called what? Election. That's why we do election. So since all of us cannot come out and take part in the decision-making process, we elect, we choose representatives to go and make decisions on our behalf. Either ways, it is still what? Democracy. Supreme power is vested on the what? On the people. And these two sides of democracy, the direct and indirect or representative, are referred to as the main, what will I call, the main forms of democracy. We have other forms of democracy in our next class. We'll talk about other forms of democracy. But for now, this is the basic form, the basis of what? Democracy. The basic sides to it. There are several variants of democracy, but the two basic forms of democracy are what? The direct and indirect what? Democracy. We call it indirect or representative democracy. Like I was explaining, like I have explained, direct, everybody takes part in the process of decision making, in the decision making process. While indirect, we elect people that will go and make decisions on our behalf, that will go and decide on how we'll be ruled. But we choose them. We tell them, go there and make decisions on our behalf. All of us cannot go. All of us cannot be there to talk about how we'll be ruled, how things will be done. So you go make the decisions on our what? Behalf. But indirect, which was practiced in ancient Greek city-states because of how small the city-states were, everybody that was legible, every legible adult male citizen took part in the decision-making process that affected them. Okay, democracy is said to be better than statocracy, that's military rule, oligarchy, which is leadership by few powerful men, and theocracy. Theocracy is leadership based on an appointed spiritual leader, like the times we had the Pope ruling and the rest of that. That's theocracy. And other forms of, governance that we have. Democracy is said to be better than all of them. Okay, having said that, I want to look at the importance of democracy. Why is democracy important? One, the practice of democracy promotes the rule of law. That is one of the importance of democracy, promotes the rule of law. Remember we said that we've learned about rule of law, and I told you that rule of law simply means supremacy of the law. It means that the law rules and not the people. When we say rule of law, we're saying that the law rules and not the people. So both the ruled and the rulers are subject to the law. That way, the rulers will not abuse the law or rule arbitrarily. They will not rule arbitrarily because their actions, everything they should do and the ones they should not do, are well stated out in the Constitution. So democracy is that system of government that promotes the rule of law. In other forms of government, like the examples I gave you, remember I told you that if the military should take over government now, they don't know what is constitution. They abandon your constitution. So they don't know. They rule by whatever they think. Do you understand? So it's democracy. Democracy is that one system of government that promotes the rule of law. And rule of law has so many advantages to it because rule of law guarantees the fundamental human rights of citizens and so many other things. Number two, it encourages peace and security. Democracy encourages what? Peace and what? Security. Number three, it facilitates effective participations of citizens in government. Number three importance of democracy is that it facilitates effective participation of citizens in government. You remember what I was trying to explain? I told you that demos means people, kratos means rule, power, or government. So when we say democracy facilitates effective participation of the people, it simply means that it's that system of government where people are allowed to participate in governance, in decision-making process that affects them. That is the whole message of democracy. From the meaning of the word democracy, you understand that. Okay? Unlike in other systems of government that the people's consent is not needed, their own is to take things as they come. So democracy is that one system of government that does what? Facilitates effective participations of citizens in what? government. Number 4, democracy guarantees periodic elections to ensure smooth transition of what? Government. Democracy is only in democracy that you talk about election, periodic elections. And that periodic election makes it easy for government to move from one hand to another, from one hand to what? Another, without fight, without crisis. So democracy, one of the importance of democracy is that it guarantees periodic elections to ensure smooth transition of what? Government. Of course, you know, in Nigeria, we run a 4-tenure government. After 4 years, another government comes into power, and so on and so forth. Number 5, it encourages checks and balances resulting from separation of powers, which enhances cooperation, collaboration, and partnership in what? Governance. Now, what is checks and balances? You know, we have 3 arms of government. The 3 arms of government is the structural division of governmental powers into arms. Structural division of governmental functions into arms. Government has functions, so many functions. They have the function to make law. They have the function to enforce law. They have the function to interpret law. And so many other functions under sub-functions, under these things we've mentioned. But these functions has been divided into 3 arms, known as the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. 3 arms or 3 organs. Okay? Now, these functions of government has been shared amongst them. So this one carries out this one. All of them are the government. The senators, the executive, the judiciary, they are the government. But each one has been given a particular or list of activities, list of functions by the constitution to carry out. So that way, this, when a particular arm, like for instance, if the legislator that is supposed to make law goes contrary to constitutional dictates on how law should be made, the judiciary will call them back. Say, no, this one is not constitutional. This one is wrong. That is checks and balances. When the executive arm of government, headed by either the president at the federal level or the governor at the state level, wants to go against what it should do, the legislature can call them back. That is why the legislature can impeach the executive head of state, because they have such power. When the president is beginning to go out of, constitutional functions, or begin to go against the law, or go against, the powers, go beyond the powers that has been given to him by the constitution, the legislature will call him back. They can even impeach him. That is why when the president makes appointments, like you appoint the governor of central bank or any form of appointment, that person you appointed, even if it's your brother, or will appear before the legislature for what? Probing, for questioning. Now, all those things are checks and balances. You see, this arm is checking that is why when the legislature makes law, the law must appear before the president. It is the president that will sign it into a law. After discussing a bill and, agreeing that it will become a law, it is the president that will sign it into a law. You see how the different arms of government are checking themselves. And that way, abuse of power or arbitrary use of power is limited. And checks and balances and that separation of power is only possible in a democratic system of what? Government. Remember I told you that if the military take over government, and there's nothing like checks and balances, there's nothing like constitution, there's nothing like arms of government, all those institutions and structures are put aside. Okay? So that is what we call checks and balances. That's the way the different arms check the activities of the different arms to ensure that none of them goes against its constitutional powers or boundaries. That is what we call checks and what? Balances. I'm trying to simplify it so that you understand it. Now, another importance is that it ensures equity, justice, and fair play. Remember, we said democracy promotes the rule of law, and the rule of law preaches equity. Everybody is equal before what? The law. The rule of law preaches justice and fair play. So, the way democracy promotes the rule of law is still the way it ensures what? Equity, justice, and fair play. Number 7, importance of democracy is that it promotes transparency and accountability. The government in power is expected to be accountable and responsible to the people that put them in power. It is the people that put them in power. It is the people that voted them into power, and they are responsible to the what? To the people. So that is what we say. It promotes transparency. It promotes accountability. That is also a very important importance of democracy. Is that clear? All right. I hope you're following. Uko, I hope you're following. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask me. Okay? Now I love questions. Now we want to look at problems of democracy. We have said so many good things about democracy, how it is so good and how it's so beautiful. But it has problems too. Like we'll always say, everything and anything that has advantages has what? Disadvantages. Nothing is all good in its entirety except God. God is the only good one. Alright. What are the problems of democracy? Number one is illiteracy and poverty. Illiteracy and poverty make democracy difficult to practice. The people don't know that they have the supreme power. They don't know that their ability to vote is their power. Their willingness to vote is their power. It is their right. They don't know. So, and because of the level of poverty in the country, you see people are more concerned about how to eat than involving themselves in politics and political activity. And it's a problem. It makes democracy difficult to practice. If people should come out, to stand up, if people should come out to participate, what we call popular participation, we talked about it before we vacated. If people should get involved in politics, in governance, it will help democracy to do what? To achieve its aim and to stand firm or stand strong. Now, another problem is democracy is expensive. Conducting election is expensive. Duplication of government powers. You have the legislature. You see how much they pay them. Dressing allowance, sitting allowance, and all of that. Democracy is expensive. That is another problem of democracy. Another problem of democracy is delay in decision making. What we call red tapeism. Delay, before a bill will become a law, it will go through different processes. They will do first reading, second reading. We've learned about it, different readings. Then they will pass it on to the president before the president will sign it into law. Unlike in military or statocracy, military rule, the president can come up and say, this is it, and everybody will start doing it, and that is it. It doesn't have to go through processes and all of that. The delay in decision making is one of the problems of democracy. I remember during, what's his name? Goodluck Jonathan's regime, there was one conference that was held. And in that conference, one of the agreements was that they will create another state, because when you look at the geopolitical zone, Southeast is the one that is disadvantaged. I think we have like 5 states in the Southeast, while others have 6, 7, and so on and so forth. Till today, they've not done it. That was how they were delaying it. Goodluck Jonathan left the seat. And the governor that the head of state that took over from him, I think our present president, His Excellency Muhammadu Buhari, came up with his own plans. He has his own plans. So that one now, they abandoned it. Nobody will look at it again. That is how it is. So with their different procedures and processes that decisions have to go through to become a reality, you see that it makes a lot of things undone. It keeps a lot of things undone. And when another government takes over power, they continue with they have their own program and agenda. They will abandon the other ones. So that's one of the problems of democracy. Another problem is election problem. Rigging of election is not news in Nigeria. I know you know. I'm talking to SS2 students, so I know you've heard about election rigging, election malpractice. We even learned about it. It's also one of the problems of democracy. How are we now sure that the people that go into power are the true reflection of the people's choices? That's the problem. When election is rigged, when there is so many violence and electoral malpractice here and there, how are we now sure that the people that we are calling our leaders are the true reflection of what? Democracy. Another problem of democracy is parliamentary what? Immunity. Remember when we talked about rule of law, I told you that there are so many limitations to the rule of law. One of them is parliamentary immunity, which is a kind of protection for the parliament, the legislators. That's why they are in the confines of where they make law, where they are having their sitting. Whatever they say or do cannot be used against them. Yes. So that parliamentary immunity, that kind of protection that, keeps them safe, makes them behave anyhow. That's why sometimes in the house, you see them, they fight, they kill themselves, they do things that are just unsaid of. Things that are unheard of, That's a problem to democracy too. Another one is keeps the minority at the edge. You know, we have this issue of minority and majority in democracy. Majority is the, let me just keep it simple. The party that won. Let's say the party in leadership. The people in leadership are the majority, while the party that did not win forms the minority. That's one side to it. And of course, you know, the minority majority idea with the ethnic groups and the rest of them. Okay, we have the Igbo, Hausa, Yoruba as seen as the majority group. Some other minority groups are always agitating that their interest is always jeopardized. Their voices are not heard, their concerns are not considered, and so on and so forth. Is also a problem. They're always agitating that they are not well represented in governance. Their concerns are not usually considered, and so on and so forth. So these are some of the problems of what? Democracy. Now, there are so many processes of democracy. And by processes of democracy, we mean some of the things that are done in order to achieve an enduring democracy. There are, just like we learned in Pillars of Democracy, where we talked about some of the things, some of the pillars, some of the institutions and ideals that need to be in place for democracy to thrive. That was what we learned in Pillars of Democracy. We talked about the rule of law. We talked about the constitution. We talked about the people. So that way, processes too are part of the Pillars of Democracy. There are so many processes. We talked about the institutions like the electoral body, INEC, and the rest of them. We talked about political parties. These are things that need to be in. These are institutions that must be on ground for democracy to thrive. Democracy does not operate in space. There are institutions, there are processes, there are ideals that must be on ground for democracy to thrive. But today we are not talking about the institutions. Remember, I told you the institutions, political parties, electoral bodies, and so on and so forth. But for today, we are talking about the processes. What are the processes that need to be in place for democracy to thrive? One of them is free and fair elections. For democracy to thrive, there must be a free and fair election. A kind of election where everybody has a level playing ground for everybody. An election that is void of intimidation, void of violence, where people are allowed to vote and choose leaders of their choice without any form of molestation or intimidation. Another one is majority, plurality rule. Remember, for somebody to become the winner, for you to become the president, it means that majority of the people, if just as we have, I think, over 140, according to the last census, I know it's beyond that, population in Nigeria, for you to win, over half of the population of Nigeria need to vote for you. That is it, for you to be the president. That is majority. That's what we mean by plurality rule. For you to become the ruler. That's one of the processes. Another one is freedom of expression. Another process of democracy, another process that needs to be on ground for an enduring democracy is freedom of expression. The press should be able to say things the way they are, not the one that government will go and bribe the press. They will be saying when something is black, they'll be saying it's white. That one is not good for democracy. It's very, very unhealthy for democracy to thrive. And the people should be able to talk. If your representative is not doing well, you should be able to talk. Should even be able to recall. That's something we call recalling in democracy. But that's not what we are talking about now. The next one is the right to assemble and protest. The right to assemble and protest is another process of democracy. Then due process of law. Law should always take its due course without fear of favor. It's another process of democracy. Another one is fair procedures that protect the rights of those suspected of crimes. Remember, we'll always say that, like the habeas corpus, you know the principle of habeas corpus, where we say that an accused person should be considered innocent until a court of law proves the person what? Guilty. Until a court of law proves you guilty, you should be considered what? Innocent. And a person should not be detained for more than 48 hours, for crying out loud, without appearing before a court of law to plead your what? Your cause. But in Nigeria, some of those things are, I don't know, they are not obtainable somehow. And that makes our own democracy, I don't know, our democracy is made in heaven. Yes. It's not the kind of democracy they practice here on earth. Alright, so Fair procedures that protect the rights of those suspected of crimes is also part of the process of democracy. Right to fair hearing, respect for minority rights, leadership succession, equality before the law. There are so many. Popular sovereignty. When we say popular sovereignty, we are talking about the people. We are talking about the fact that the people are the ultimate source of authority of what? Government. A government in democracy is legitimate because the people voted them there, because people put them in power. Institutional and procedural limitation on powers of government and checks and balances. Beautiful, I've explained checks and balances. I know you know what that is. If you have any question, ask me and I will answer you. Existence of democratic institutions. You know we have democratic institutions. Yes, democratic institutions are those ones I've just told you. I talked about electoral bodies, talked about political parties, pressure groups, all these things that democratic was institutions. Remember I told you that for democracy to thrive, certain things need to be in place. One is the democratic institutions. Then the processes, which are what we are talking about now. It has two sides to it, institutions, processes, and their ideals. Okay, transparent electoral processes, yes. Formation and registration of political parties, yes, and general elections. All these things are the processes of democracy. They are the processes of democracy. They are the things that make for an enduring democracy. They are the pillars of democracy. They are the pillars on which democracy sits or stands to do what? To thrive. Okay, I will be stopping here for now. Remember, we talked about the meaning of democracy. We talked about the basic form of democracy. That's the direct and indirect. We look at the other variants or variations or types of democracy or forms of democracy in our next class. But we talked about the main ones, which are the direct and indirect or representative democracy. And we also went ahead to talk about the importance of democracy. We looked at the problems of democracy and the processes of what democracy that we just finished. You know, when we talk about general election, it is the election that you know, the normal election that you know that we, carry out. Because I know somebody saying, Auntie, which one is general election? General election is the election that you know. You go and register for election, get your PVC. On the day of election, you go and do your accreditation. Is that what they call it? Yes, accreditation or something like that. Then, when it's time to vote, you go and vote. That is it. And at the end of the day, the winner is announced. That is it. Okay. Till I come your way next time, please do this assignment for me. I want you to list 10 qualifications for voting in Nigeria. That's number one question. 10 qualifications. What qualifies you to vote in Nigeria? 10 of them. And I want you to revisit our lesson on the rule of law. Revisit it because I will be giving you tests and assignments from that topic. It's very important to me. In our next class, we'll look at other types of what? Democracy. Or let me tell you so that you read ahead of me. We'll look at constitutional democracy in our other class. Now till I come your way next time, like I said earlier, stay safe and be good. Thank you so very much.